ಹಾ
ನಿಮ್ಮ ಇದು ಕಾಣಿಸಲ್ಲ ವಿಡಿಯೋ?
ಹಾ ಅದೇ ಮಾಡ್ತೀನಿ, ಅದು ಆನ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೀನಿ. ಸುಮುಖೌ ಸುಂದರತರೌ ಸುನಾಸೌ ಸುಖಚಿತ್ತನೋ ಸುರಾರಾಧಿತ ಪಾದಾಬ್ಜೌ ರಮಾ ನಾರಾಯಣೋ ಸ್ತುಮಃ. ಲಸತು ಶ್ರೀಮದಾನಂದ ತೀರ್ಥೇಂದುರ್ನೋ ಹೃದಂಬರೆ ಯದ್ವಚಶ್ಚಂದ್ರಿಕಾ ಸ್ವಾಂತ ಸಂತಾಪಂ ವಿನಿಕೃಂತತಿ. ತಪಸ್ವಾಧ್ಯಾಯ ಶುಶ್ರೂಷಾ ಕೃಷ್ಣ ಪೂಜಾ ರತಂ ಮುನಿಂ ವಿಶ್ವೇಶಮಿಷ್ಟದಂ ವಂದೇ ಪರಿವ್ರಾಟ್ ಚಕ್ರವರ್ತಿನಂ. ಶ್ರೀ ಗುರುಭ್ಯೋ ನಮಃ. ಹರಿ ಓಂ. With the grace of Parama Pujya Shri Vishweshwartirtha Swamiji and Parama Pujya Shri Vishwaprasanna Tirtha Swamiji, special series of lectures are going to conclude today. And these 7 lectures, special series of lectures, are very much overwhelmingly received by participants and spectators. So this series will again continue in the next upcoming days. So this is just a beginning. So this is the, we can say, end of the beginning. So to end of the beginning must be done by some good, very good scholar. So we have now a very good scholar to talk about Madhvacharya's contribution to the world of philosophy. We have Dr. K. Sumanacharya. Dr. K. Sumanacharya is disciple of Parama Pujya Shri Vishweshwartirtha Swamiji. With these words, I can conclude actually my introductory marks, because this is the biggest achievement in the world today. But as a rule, I will continue to do introduction. Dr. Vidwan Sunil Acharya studied traditionally for 13 years in Purna Pradnya Vidyapita. As I hear from my seniors, he was a very bright student, and he has done his MA in English at the time. Means when everyone was not looking up to the English and no one was interested in English, at traditional times, Dr. Sunil Acharya has shown interest in English literature and studied English with the special pursuit of spreading Madhva philosophy to the non-Kannadiga spectators. So you can assume the what we can say visualization of Dr. Sumanacharya. And after completing study in Purna Pradnya Vidyapita, he received a special blessings from Pujya Swamiji, and he did his Nyaya Sudha Mangala in Purna Pradnya Vidyapita, from Purna Pradnya Vidyapita. And after that, he joined Jain College, Mahavir Jain College, and he was there for many years doing lecturing, and he was an assistant professor in Jain College. And he was very unique, and he, because of his interest, I heard that the registration for Samskrita study went very high, that there were nearby 400 students in the Sanskrit department. So you can assume the leadership quality of Dr. Sumanacharya, and of course the lecturing capacity and inspiring capacity of Dr. Sumanacharya. Because of that, in Jain College, they have started Sanskrit department, and they have started teaching Nyaya and a particular system of Samskrita literature. So this is all because of Dr. Sumanacharya. And after that, he went to he went to Chennai, and he joined as assistant professor in a prestigious Loyola College. So now he is working in Loyola College as an assistant professor. So there also he is heading many departments, and recently has concluded a very successful event, and in which in many more than 50 or 60 people have participated, and that is called as refreshment course. Actually, refreshment course are mostly done in universities when everyone present, because it accept accountability. But in the period of COVID, they have requested the department, and they have accessed that right to do that refreshment course through online, and it was conducted very professionally, and whoever participated, and they have shown the professional interest in that, and after that successful, I think because of that successful conclusion, many have thinking about doing the refreshment course in online. So this kind of knowledge, this kind of leadership quality he has shown from his childhood. So now without wasting my time, because I need to listen to his views on Madhvacharya's philosophy, because philosophy itself is a big tree. So there are many branches. So what is the contribution of Madhva philosophy, and what it makes unique, so that a world can view with a special lens of Madhva philosophy? That view can be understood by only the person who can understand every philosophy thoroughly, and who have critically read every philosophy thoroughly. That's why we have chosen Dr. Suman Acharya to deliver the speech. So he is very well versed in Sanskrita, Kannada, English, and Hindi, and many other languages. Now, because of he is living in Tamil Nadu, I assume that he also have got the access to the Tamil language also, because he is very quick learner. So with this introduction, I wholeheartedly welcome Dr. Suman Acharya, and I request him to deliver the speech. Dhanyawad, Acharya.
व्यासाय प्रमितेतिहास रचनोल्लासाय दुर्वादिनां त्रासाय अशकराय तत्सुकृत विश्वासाय दोषद्विषे भासायामुनरम्यतोय सदृशायासाय मासेविने दासाय अभयदाय मध्वगुरुहृद्वासाय तुभ्यं नमः। सत्संग मानस सरोवर मध्यवर्ती कृष्णांघ्रि चारु कमलार्पित चित्तवृत्तिः शास्त्राति मंजु पद रंजित रम्य संसत् अस्माक हृत् सरसिजेस्तु स मध्वहंसः अभ्रमं भंगरहितं अजडं विमलं सदा आनन्दतीर्थमतुलं भजे तापत्रयापहम्। तपस्वाध्याय शुश्रूषा कृष्ण पूजा रतं मुनिं विश्वेशमिष्टदं वंदे परिव्राट चक्रवर्तिनम्। श्री गुरुभ्यो नमः। हरि ओम। Offering my devotional prostrations to the holy feet of my revered Guru, His Holiness Sri Sri Vishweshatirtha Swamiji, the one and only erudite scholar of 21st century in Dvaita philosophy and various other connected shastras. I also offer my devotional salutations to my another Guru, the legendary Vedantin and Vaiyakarana, His Holiness Sri Sri Vishwaprasanna Tirtha Swamiji. I would be failing in my duty if I do not thank Dr. Ananda Tirthacharya Nagasampige, the director of Purna Prajna Samshodhana Trust, and all his colleagues who have provided me this great opportunity of sharing few thoughts on the contributions of Sri Madhvacharya to the world of philosophy. Special thanks to Dr. Srinidhi Acharya Pyati, who took a lot of pain in introducing me. Actually, I don't deserve that much of, appreciations or a lot of introduction. I'm just a disciple, one of the disciples of His Holiness Sri Vishveshatirtha Swamiji, because of whom I am able to speak few words about Sanskrit or Vedanta. First of all, I deem it a pleasure on this auspicious day when Sri Madhvanavami Utsava is happening to speak a few words about the great contributions of Sri Madhvacharya and thereby purify my indriyas, the body, and of course soul too. Now the question is, am I first of all eligible to speak about the contributions of Sri Madhvacharya? Definitely not. But as I said, I am here to cleanse my indriyas, atma and sharira by sharing my thoughts on the contributions of Madhvacharya, which I have studied from His Holiness for about 13 years, and even after that through his various other disciples who are my revered gurus in Purna Prajna Vidyapitha and in all other associated institutions. Actually, Sri Vyasatirtha consolidates Dvaita philosophy in a verse saying, Shriman Madhvamate Harih Parataraha Satyam Jagat Tatvato Bhedaha Jivaganaha Harer Anucharaha Nichocha Bhavangataha Muktir Naija Sukhanubhutihi Amala Bhaktischa Tat Sadhanam Hekshaditritayam Pramanam Akhilam Naika Vedyo Harihi. Which means Lord Hari is the supreme being. These are all the preachings of Madhvacharya. He consolidates. Who else can consolidate the greatness and the preachings of Madhvacharya other than Sri Vyasatirtha? Vyasatirtha says, first and foremost contribution of Sri Madhvacharya to the world of philosophy is establishing the supremacy of Lord Vishnu or Sri Hari. Shriman Madhvamate Harihi Parataraha. He is the one and only supreme being in this universe. Who? Lord Sri Hari. And secondly, Satyam Jagat. This world is real, not illusion. This world is real, not illusion as claimed by various other schools. And next is Tattvato Bhedaha. The difference between the Jiva, Jada, Paramatma or amongst Jivas is real. Even that is not illusion, it is real. Tattvato Bhedaha. Jiva Ganaha Harehe Anucharaha. And these Jivas or all these souls are indeed the servants of Lord Sri Hari, that supreme being. nichocha bhavam gataha. And even amongst these jivas, there is a gradation. Each jiva is different from the other. There is gradation. Somebody is greater than another souls or few souls, or somebody is lower to few souls. Therefore, nichocha bhavam gataha. There is a gradation even amongst these. Muktir naija sukhanubhutihi. An attainment of mukti means nothing but enjoyment of innate bliss. Because what do you mean by mukti? Many people say or define mukti in many ways, but Srimad Acharya says nothing but enjoyment of innate bliss, which is already there. So our own bliss is there. It is kept in a carrier, which will be opened by God and given to us. That's all. It is kept in a locker and we are unable to unlock it. It is possible only by the blessings of Lord Vishnu. Therefore, once we are blessed by him, we would be able to access our own carrier and thereby enjoy the innate bliss, which is the everlasting bliss. Not like what the bliss or the pleasure which we are experiencing now, which is not everlasting. It will last one or the other day when we perish. That is when this body perishes. Even that joy or pleasure, bliss perishes. And to attain this mukti, amala bhaktischa sat sadhanam, the chief instrument is none other than the pure devotion. Now, a question arises. What is this? Everybody says read Shastra, go through various scriptures, study Vedas, Puranas, Itihasa, Smriti, etc., so that you gain a good amount of knowledge with which you will be able to get the blessings of Lord Vishnu, and thereby you will be able to access through the moksha. But Madhvacharya says, what is the chief instrument to lead ourselves unto the moksha is bhakti. Amala bhaktischa sat sadhanam. The chief instrument to get into the path of moksha or reaching moksha is none other than amala bhaktihi. That is the pure devotion. How is it possible? Then is knowledge not important at all? For this, we need to know what is bhakti. According to Srimad Acharya, bhakti is nothing but mahatmya jnana purvastu sudrudaha sarvatodhikaha snehaha bhaktiriti proktaha taya muktihi nacha anyatha. Bhakti is nothing but mahatmya jnana purvaha snehaha. The love which we have for God is bhakti. And what kind of love? There is an adjective, mahatmya jnana purvastu. Mahatmya jnana purvaha means there are many atmas, whereas that supreme being or Hari is Mahan Atma. He is the greatest one, greatest being, supreme one. So if we get this knowledge that he is the supreme being, and this knowledge should be stable, it should be everlasting, it should always be there in our intellect. So if we have such knowledge or such awareness forever, that kind of knowledge embedded with the practice, not just knowing about something. After knowing that Lord Hari himself is one and the only supreme being in this world, we have to surrender ourselves to him, for which we need to follow a lot of austerities, practices. If we do that, that itself is called as bhakti. Therefore, bhakti is nothing but mahatmya jnana purvaha sudrudaha sarvatodika sneha. This kind of love we have for many people, like for our parents, for our brothers, sisters, children, and so on. But whereas in every janma or all the time, in whatever situation we are in, if we have that kind of love or affection for God, which is everlasting, and if we practice the same all the time and believe that, that is what is called as bhakti. So Mahatmya Jnana Purvastu Sudruda Sarvatodika Sneha Bhakti Riti Prokta. Therefore, bhakti means, of course, we need knowledge. See, if we need to know that somebody is Mahatma, we'll just, just because somebody said you will go and prostrate before somebody, that he is Mahatma. No, you need to know that why is he Mahan Atma? What is that Mahatva he has in him, which I am not having, which I am not in possession of? What is that greatness which is found in Lord Vishnu? So we need to know that, for which we need to go through the scriptures, for which we need a great guru like Madhvacharya. So therefore, through guru, studying all the scriptures, getting good amount of knowledge and being well equipped with the knowledge of scriptures and thereby practicing the same ultimately, which will lead us to have that great affection for God forever, is called bhakti. So taya muktir na chanyatha. That's what Srimad Acharya says. Taya muktihi na chanyatha. There is no other way indeed than this to attain moksha. So for mukti, there is a need of bhakti. This is what Vyasatirtha consolidates in this shloka, nacha anyatha. Therefore, there are many things to be dealt with, but within this stipulated time of some 25 to 30 minutes, I would not be able to deal with all these topics. Therefore, let me try to focus on one particular thing, or if possible, the second one too. One is the supremacy of God. How Srimad Acharya established the supremacy of God. That is one. Second thing is, what is bhakti? And how is bhakti considered to be the chief instrument or means of attainment of moksha? How is it? This also, even this was very well established, even this is being very well established by Srimad Acharya. So therefore, today I am trying to deal with these two topics if time permits. First of all, one of the major contributions of Madhvacharya to Indian thought is the emphatic assertion regarding the identification of Brahman, the supreme being, with Lord Vishnu. In his Brahma Sutra Bhashyam, Madhvacharya declares Brahma Shabdascha Vishnaveva. In this universe, every embodied soul desires to enjoy bliss and happiness. None wishes to suffer, of course, even a little of misery or sorrow. But the fact of universal experience is that no soul, while existing in this universe, gets the happiness desired by him, nor is he able to get rid of the unhappiness in spite of trying and tiring himself for the same. Therefore, as Badarayana or Vedavyasa Maharshi rightly points out through a sutra in Brahma Sutras, Itara Vyapadesha Dhita Karanadi Dosha Prasaktihi, in second chapter, the embodied soul is unable to do what is beneficial and to ward off what is malefic to himself. When one observes one's life and the surrounding happenings and experiences, one realizes that one's own birth, death, growth, prosperity, poverty, happiness, unhappiness, and the like, which affect one's life, are not wholly in one's capacity. One very often experiences the truth of dictum, man proposes, God disposes. Everyone becomes a confirmed believer of the Upanishadic statement, that is Atma Pyanishaha Sukha Dukkha Hetoh. This is from Shvetashvatara Upanishad, first chapter, second verse, which declares that the embodied soul is not the master of the cause of even his sound I mean, even if his sound happiness or misery, on observing the world around, he comes to know that the existence, maintenance, and other activities of the entire world, that is Srishti, Sthiti, Laya, everything are going on because of some unseen force. The unseen force has been called variously in our scriptures as Brahman, Paramatman, Atman, etc. by Vedas and Upanishads. These seers who discovered Vedas, they say that the Srishti, Sthiti, Laya, Niyamana, Jnana, Ajnana, Bandha, and Moksha, which means origin, subsistence, dissolution, control, knowledge or awareness, ignorance, bondage of embodied soul, that is Bandha, and the liberation. Nay, everything of the sentient souls and insentient matter in this universe, as well as above and below this universe, happens due to this soul agency, that is Brahman. Let me quote few lines from these scriptures as quoted by Srimad Acharya. Ishavasyopanishad says, Ishavasyamidam sarvam, the entire universe is indwelt by God. Even Kathopanishad says, Yeshu sarveshu bhuteshu gudhotma na prakashate. God is dwelling invisible in all beings and hence is not manifest. And even Taittiriya Upanishad says, Yato va imani bhutani jayante, yena jatani jivante, yat prayantyabhisamvishante, tadvijitnyasasva tad brahma. Which means, that of whom these beings are born, by whom when born they live, into whom they dissolve ultimately, desire to know, that is Brahman. Mandukya Upanishad says, Yesha sarveshwaraha, Yesha sarvajnaha, Yesho antaryami, Yesha yonihi, sarvasya prabhavapyayohi bhutanam. He is the supreme. He is omnipotent. He is omnipresent. He is indweller. He is the source of all. He is the origin and dissolution of all beings. What else do you need? Okay, let us see what Krishna himself says in Bhagavad Gita. He asserts, Aham Krishnasya jagataha prabhava pralayastatha mattah parataram nanyat kinchidasti dhananjaya mai sarvamidam protam sutre maniganaiva. Dear Dhananjaya or Arjuna, I am the producer and destroyer of the whole universe. There is nothing else higher than myself. All this is woven upon me. What a wonderful illustration or example. Krishna says, all this is woven upon me like a number of pearls upon a thread. Which means Krishna is like a thread and we are all like pearls. We are woven upon him. So therefore, even through all these Upanishadic words or Upanishadic statements or Bhagavad Gita statement made by Krishna himself, it is very clear that Lord himself alone is the supreme being. Vishnu Sarvottamaha. Even another verse in Bhagavad Gita, 8th chapter, says, Ishvara Sarvabhutanam Hriddeshe Arjuna Tishtati Brahmayanna Sarvabhutani Yantrarudhani Mayaya. Then where is this God? How can we find him? Answering to this question, Lord Krishna says, God or myself is seated in the region of the heart of all beings. He turns around all beings as though mounted on a machine by his prowess or Maya. Brahmayan Sarvabhutani Yantrarudhani Mayaya, he says. There is another verse in Bhagavad Gita. Likewise, there are many. Dvavimau Purusho Loke Charascha Aksharayeva Charas Sarvani Bhutani Kutasto Akshara Uchyate Uttamah Purushastonyah Paramatmetyudahrita Yo Lokatrema Vishya Vibharti Avyayaha Ishwaraha. So there are twofold sentient souls, Kshara and Akshara. All beings right from Brahma are Kshara. Goddess Lakshmi alone is unattached or Akshara. I am the supreme being who is above these two sentient souls. Hence, I am well known as Uttamah Purushaha, or the supreme being in this world. So this is what, hence I am also known as Purushottama. These two are Purushas, twofold sentient souls, and I am above them, hence I am Purushottamaha. So in this way, Utpasti, even Skanda Purana, if we go through Skanda Purana, even in Skanda Purana, we get such verses like Utpatti Sthiti Samhara Niyatirtyanamavritihi Bandha Mokshaucha Purushat Yasmat Sa Harirekarat Ajnanam Jnanado Vishnu Jnaninam Mokshadascha Saha Anandadascha Muktanam Sayevaiko Janardanaha. The person from whom the origin, subsistence, destruction, control, knowledge, ignorance, bondage, liberation proceed, that is Hari. And I am the one who is known as Lord Hari, Krishna says. So therefore, Vishnu bestows knowledge to the ignorant, liberation to the knower, and bliss to the liberated. Which means even in moksha, the one who gives bliss to those liberated souls is none other than Lord Vishnu. So therefore, this itself makes it very clear that once we get liberated, we do not become God. There is somebody else who is also taking care of us and controlling us, who is providing all the amenities and facilities, even in moksha. He alone is Janardana. Vishnu alone binds the fetters of mundane existence. He alone is the liberator from them. He grants absolute bliss. He is the highest Brahman or supreme being. There is no doubt about it. That's what Skanda Purana says. So in this way, Bhagavata also, if we go through Bhagavata, we get to see a verse in second chapter or second skanda, which says, Dravyam karmacha kalascha swabhavo jivaveva yadanugrahatasanti nasanti yadupekshaya. Whether it is matter, action or destiny, time, innate nature, embodied soul, all these exist only by His grace and cease to exist when He ignores them. Yadanugrahatasanti nasanti yadupekshaya. They cease to exist when He ignores them. Therefore, we are all existing just because of His grace, which means He is the one and only supreme being, and He is not blessed by anybody else. There is nobody who is above Him. He is the one and only supreme being. Otherwise, how can we call Him as supreme? If somebody else is there above Him, can He be called as supreme? No, indeed not. Therefore, we have a galaxy of gods and deities who are also living or existing under the shades of a very big tree called Lord Vishnu. Srinidhi Acharya, do you have some 10 more minutes? Can I continue, Srinidhi Acharya? Okay. Let me quote some of the passages or some verses from Shrutis. Because the question is, fine, you say, Srimad Acharya says, Brahma Shabdascha Vishnaveva. Brahma means it is Vishnu. Because in all scriptures, they say the supreme being is none other than Brahma or Parabrahma or Paramatman. Now the question is, we have galaxy of gods and deities, and pertinent question may be asked, who is Brahman, the god among these gods? Because in Skanda Purana or in Kurma Purana, we also listen to few verses where Brahma means Rudra or Shiva. In Brahmanda Purana and various other Puranas, we also come across few verses where Chaturmukha is also called as Brahman. So now the question is, fine, we accept that Brahma is a supreme being, but who is that Brahma, my dear? Let us know who is this Brahma now. Why do you come to the conclusion saying that Brahma is none other than Vishnu? That Brahma might be even Shiva or Vishnu or Skanda or Chaturmukha. Why only Vishnu? Why not somebody else? Is the pertinent question, for which Srimad Acharya answers wonderfully. He says, he declares Brahma Shabdascha Vishnaveva. The term Brahman primarily denotes God Vishnu alone. And some of the scriptural passages which we have come across earlier proclaim the supremacy of Lord Vishnu. Some more can be quoted, like Aitareya Brahmana says, Agnirvai Devanam Avamaha Vishnu Paramaha Tadantara Sarva Devataha. Amongst all the gods or deities, Agni is the lowest one, Vishnu is the highest amongst them, whereas all others come in between. Therefore, Agnirvai Devanam Avamaha Vishnuhu Paramaha Tadantara Sarva Devataha. In between come all other deities. So even Aitareya Brahmana says Vishnu is the greatest amongst all the gods. Why only Aitareya Brahmana? Srimad Acharya in his Brahma Sutra Bhashyam quotes one Shruti called Bhalaveya Shruti, in which it is mentioned, Namani Sarvani Yama Vishanti Tamvai Vishnum Paramamudaharanti. That Lord is said to be Vishnu, whom all words by their connotation declare. That Lord is said to be Vishnu, whom all words by their connotation declare. It means every word talks about Vishnu. In Shruti, every letter also describes Lord Vishnu and his Mahatmyam. The greatness or the prowess of Vishnu is mentioned or described by each and every letter in Shruti. Bhagavata says, Narayana para Vedaha, Deva Narayana Angajaha, Narayana para Lokaha, Narayana para Makhaha, Narayana paro yogo, Narayana param tapaha, Narayana param jnanam, Narayana paragatihi. Which means Narayana is the ultimate goal of Vedas. The gods have sprung from the limbs of Narayana. All things have Narayana as their goal. All sacrifices are meant to please him. Ultimate object of all yoga is Narayana. All austere penance is intended to propitiate Narayana. All wisdom is directed towards Narayana. Hence, all paths lead to Narayana. So this is the verse from Bhagavata. If we go through Daivi Mimamsa, even there is a verse which says, Sa Vishnu Rahahi Tam Brahmetya Chakshate. Vishnu, in the assembly of all the gods, declares, I myself is that Brahman. What do you mean by Brahma? Brihatvat, one who is all pervasive. Brahma means all pervasive. See, you just have it is a very simple. What do you mean by Vishnu? Vishnu is Vyapakatvat Vishnu. One who is all pervading is Vishnu. Brahma means all pervasive. Brihatvat, Brahma. Vyapakatvat, Vishnu. Therefore, both the words mean same. Who is Brahma is Vishnu, and who is Vishnu is Brahma. Can you say the same thing to Chaturmukha or Shiva or Skanda or anybody else or Indra or etc.? No, it is not possible. Madhvacharya quotes another verse from Taittiriya Upanishad. In his Taittiriya Upanishad Bhashya, he quotes another verse from scriptures. Om iti Brahma. Om means Brahma. Om Nama. And who is that Brahma? Om Nama Bhagavan Vishnu Adhikocha Gunatvataha. And that Om is none other than Vishnu, because Om Otattva-vachi Omkaraha. Om means nothing but that which which talks about the excellent qualities. And who is none other than Vishnu, who has all these excellent qualities? Otattva-vachi Omkaraha. Om is nothing but the synonym of Vishnu. Varchita sarva doshairyah gunasarvasva murtiman swatantro yatvashas sarve savishtu paramo mataha. This is another verse quoted by Srimad Acharya in his Vishnu Tattva Viniranaya from Paramopanishad. He quotes from Paramopanishad. Says, Varchita sarva doshairyah. Lord Vishnu is devoid of all the defects, and he is the embodiment of all virtues. He is independent, and all are under his control. He is considered, hence he is considered to be the supreme being or highest one. So what else do we need? Madhvacharya never says that you have to accept Lord Vishnu as a supreme being because I am saying. Instead, everywhere he says, see, this Shruti says Lord Vishnu is the supreme being. There is another verse which says Lord Vishnu is the supreme. He is the highest amongst all the gods. There is another Bhagavad Gita verse. There is Skanda Purana. There is another Purana. So in this way, he keeps quoting many verses to establish the supremacy of Lord Vishnu. So therefore, this is the way Srimad Acharya establishes the supremacy of Lord Vishnu, rather than forcing us to accept Lord Vishnu as the supreme being. He just keeps quoting all the Vedic scriptures, Puranas, Itihasas, Smritis, etc., to prove that you just can't escape from accepting the supremacy of Lord Vishnu. With these few words, I would like to conclude today's session. I think I have tried my level best to put forth my views as preached and established by Srimad Acharya in his various granthas, which are called Sarvamula. So on this auspicious day, with the blessings of His Holiness Sri Vishweshatirtha Swamiji, Sri Vishwaprasanna Tirtha Swamiji, and also by various gurus who have taught me for those 13 years in Purna Prajna Vidyapitha, I am really very much indebted to all these excellence and scholars. And I would like to once again thank all these great people from the bottom of my heart. And I would like to offer these few words to the holy feet of Srimad Ananda Tirtha Bhagavat Padacharya Antargata Sri Vedavyasa Rupi Paramatma, through my revered Guru, His Holiness Sri Sri Vishweshatirtha Swamiji. Thank you very much. Sarvam Shri Krishna Arpanamastu.
Dhanyavadaha to Pujya Dr. K.S. Sumanacharya. As we say, we cannot take whole Ganga to our house. That's why we take one little small, vessel, or we take a small vessel from there, and whichever vessel is available, we will put our Ganga to our home, and we say that we bought Ganga. So like that, we cannot understand the whole uniqueness of Madhva philosophy in half an hour. But we are trying here to provide a gist or interest in this half an hour to 40 minutes. So in that, if you get any interest, you can further contact the speaker, or you can continue to associate with Purna Prajna Samshodhana Trust, and we will continue this kind of sessions. And I request Acharya to bless us with his speech in upcoming days also, so we can get knowledge from his understandings, his long study. So we have thoughtful and insightful 40 minutes speech by Dr. Sumanacharya, and for that I am very much indebted to Dr. Sumanacharya, and I believe that he will be having Parama Pujya Shri Vishweshatirtha Swamiji's blessing and Parama Pujya Shri Vishwaprasanna Tirtha Swamiji's blessing, because whenever we meet them, they used to tell us, His Holiness used to tell us that now we need to move one step forward and try to, this Dvaita and Advaita and churning, this happened long time. So now we need to move a step ahead and think beyond that, and we need to preach to the generation which is not very much interested in philosophy. We need to attract them, whatever instrument or whatever unique way you need to learn to make them interested in the philosophy. You need to make that. This was the preaching and guidance of Parama Pujya Shri Vishveshatirtha Swamiji, our Guruji. So that kind of instrument we have collected that kind of instrument in these days. We have 7 instruments now. So we have collected 7 instruments in the form of speakers. So we will use these instruments in upcoming days, and we will try to connect to the younger generation audience, and we will try to accumulate you that kind of knowledge, what you expect from Madhva philosophy or a branch of philosophy. So this is the first attempt, and we hope that sometimes we may have problem in connection issues. You have all bear with us for that. I thank participants, and I thank all speakers who have contributed the time and the knowledge for the cause of great knowledge, and for the cause of spreading the awareness of Madhva philosophy. I thank all, and I thank especially Dr. Suman Acharya for giving us a time and making us aware of gist of Madhva philosophy. With these words, we will conclude 7 days special lecture series today. Sarvam Shri Krishna Arpanamastu. Dhanyavad.
Thank you very much. It's my pleasure to. Dhanyavad.
Namaste.